Dato Colin, it's a pleasure to meet you here. Thank you for sparing your time.
Yes, it is actually a program. And it's a program that consists of many processes, and each process has got many components inside, including technology, equipment, including expertise, including techniques, including protocols, including medication. Just so many things are involved.
Based on your statement just now, so how can you tell the audience how to choose a good IVF center as a POV from the patient, because we cannot see inside the lab, we don't know about anything about technology. How can we choose a good center for ourselves? Dato Colin, it's a pleasure to meet you here. Thank you for sparing your time. Yeah.
My pleasure. Yes.
You've been in this industry for so many years. Even I haven't born, you are already here in industry. Can you even remember how many babies are born with your help during
Well,
these
with my
years?
help and also with the doctors that I've trained, I think at least a few tens of thousands of babies.
Wow, couldn't imagine. Okay, doctor, 40 years ago, what is it like, the IVF in the early years?
Well, in the early years, IVF pregnancy rates were very low. And when you say low, it means like single-digit pregnancy rates, maybe 12, 15% pregnancy rates. This was in the early years in the 1980s. Then as time goes by, it went further and further. And we have now reached a stage where for a good embryo to be transferred, we can get pregnancy rates in the level of 80%.
Wow, so the leap of the technology is actually in the medication, in the machine technology, or what do you think?
It's in everything. So very important is that IVF, you must remember, is not an event. It is not a procedure. It is not a technique. It is not a methodology. It is not even a process. It is actually a program. And it's a program that consists of many processes, and each process has got many components inside, including technology, equipment, including expertise, including techniques, including protocols, including medication. Just so many things are involved. So if anything along the way is not quite right, you don't get a pregnancy. So you must make sure that the hundreds of elements, perhaps thousands of elements, are right in order to get a pregnancy.
After so many years, you are managed to have your own center. You also managed to have a lot of center outside Malaysia also, right? I believe in Singapore also you have one center over there. But how can you, as a medical doctor and as a leader for your group, make sure that each center serves the same quality? How do you do the quality control?
There are many components that lead to eventually to a high pregnancy rate, and every single component is very important. So we have to realize that in this entire chain of events, the entire program, that every part is being looked after and every part is able to deliver the optimum or the maximum the maximum or the optimum efficiency in order to enable the final point, which is the pregnancy. So this involves a system of systems, which I have developed over the decades. And this is something that is being replicated in all the centers that I'm involved in, so that we can deliver the final high pregnancy rates.
Which one is become your priority now? Maintaining the quality from each center to make sure each center have the same value and spirit and SOP, or you are more prioritize yourself in order to look in the next technology in this field, you know, as your contribution as an Aspire member? Which one do you prioritize the most?
Okay, I think once you say that you prioritize one over another, I think that is already a wrong approach. Important is that you have to ensure that every single step in the entire chain, in the entire program of IVF is optimum. In other words, if I have to say it, you have to prioritize every single of the hundreds of steps.
Wow, okay. So IVF is involve human and machine technology. If you could like choose, do you prefer to have a very skillful human with just ordinary machine, or you prefer to have an ordinary people to operate an extraordinary machine?
If you choose one over the other, or the other over the one, that is a recipe for failure.
Wow.
It's a recipe for not getting the optimum pregnancy rates. You can't choose. You must have every single one of them at the optimum level.
Okay, wow. But there's one thing that you cannot control, the patient itself. How do you make sure that we inject the same dosage, we do every protocol that
You must not. You must not give the same dosage. You must not give the same protocol. If you do that, again, you will not get what is going to be the best for the patient.
Wow.
So for every single patient, and this means every single patient out of the tens or the hundreds of thousands of patients, every single patient, we must tailor-make the program that will bring out the maximum potential that the patient can have. Patient A could be 35 years old. Most of the things are okay. It's just fallopian tube block. She has a different potential of becoming pregnant. Patient B may be a 43-year-old patient with many problems in the womb, the tube, the sperm, and of course the age factor. She has a very different potential, a much lower potential. So the idea is that you need to come up with a program, a tailor-made program for each patient so that she can achieve the highest potential that she's capable of.
Talking about tailor-made means that the doctor behind the recipe of the protocol and also the dosage of the medication are really important. How do you choose doctors as your team?
To choose doctors, there are a few very important criteria. Number one criteria is the attitude. If the doctor thinks that he does not need to learn, then that is an automatic self-disqualification even before I even want to see the doctor. The second, in other words, the doctor has to be very willing to learn. And of course, this is the most important thing. On top of that, we choose doctors who are trying to do better always, trying to be innovative and trying to learn and improve himself or herself all the time. Secondly is that the doctor must have certain basic education. And if he doesn't, then again, you can't. But if he has that basic education, it doesn't matter which level it is. It can just be a completely fresh gynecologist with absolutely no exposure in IVF, but the attitude is correct. Another important criteria is the hands. And the hands are something you are born with. So there are doctors who are very good with their hands in doing 3D, whereas another doctor are clumsy and they cannot differentiate 3D things. So this is again a very important aspect because the same procedure, Dr. A can do a lot better than Dr. B if Dr. A has got the 3D spatial ability, whereas Dr. B somehow just can't. And so I will not choose a Dr. B.
I see. So IVF are involving so many milestones, right? First, egg stimulation, and then OPU, and then embryo transfer. You said that doctors should be skillful while also having a good attitude and also basic skill. Is there any chance that later in the future, the IVF, one patient is not only assisted by one doctor? Is it possible? For example, the egg stimulation is done by a group of doctors, and then after she passed this milestone, she will be handled by another group of doctors, which is it's their strength to handle the OPU. What do you think? Because
Yes.
nowadays one doctor is handling all, right?
In fact, that's not correct. Now, depending on where you go to, let's say in most places in Australia, a patient is handled by different doctors at different stages. So in Australia, generally the IVF treatment is not so personalized, but in Malaysia and Singapore, it's usually quite personalized, where the same doctor will handle everything, if not most of the things. But yes, you can easily have a system where different doctors would do different parts of the program. Example, like today, you don't expect doctors to be handling the sperm and the eggs and the embryos inside the lab because that is the area of the embryologist. And the embryologist should not be handling the geneticist thing. So it is a team effort. And it is best if the people who can do their part of the job best handle that part of the journey of the patient's IVF program.
Wow, okay. Doctor, are you more interested in research in the more technology about the machine that can help to make the chance of pregnancy higher? Or are you more throwing your energy into training the doctors? Which one are you doing it right now?
Again, I must say, and you probably guess my answer, you have to put 100% in A and 100% in B. If you choose one or the other, you will not get the highest pregnancy rates that is possible.
Okay, so
So-
it must go along the way together.
You're not only
align-
together, you have to go maximum in one and maximum in the other.
Wow,
You must have the capacity to do 100% here and 100% there.
How do you manage your time? You are still having your patient, you are managing your center. What is your daily at this moment?
Stems from our core value, where our 4 core values are excellence, innovation, integrity, and quality. And this is something that I infuse into key members of our team, where with these 4 core values, we continuously strive to do something that is highest possible in whatever procedure, in whatever field that we are doing. And innovation, we are always thinking of how to do things even better. And even though no one else on earth is doing it, but if there's something better than what anyone else is doing, we will do it. And we step into the area where we lead. So that is innovation. Integrity, quality, I think that's more self-explanatory. So once you have the attitude, and with the passion that goes along with it, all these things are possible. We will have the energy, we will have the time, we will manage. And it's not just about time, it's about how we work smart and to be able to achieve all those things.
Do you think someday the cost of the IVF treatment will decrease because there are many IVF clinics are opening and there are many patients are needing the procedure?
I will answer your question a bit differently. I would say that the cost effectiveness of IVF will improve, meaning that you can go to a top IVF center. You may actually pay even more than what you are paying today, but the pregnancy rate is even proportionately higher. So that at the end of the day, you actually pay less to get a baby. So cost effectiveness will go up as the years go by. And in terms of different IVF centers, again, it caters for different clientele. There are those lower cost ones where the pregnancy rates may be quite not so good, but the entry level is cheap. So patients may go in there, they pay less, they have only a 20% chance of taking back a baby, but they hope that they are the lucky one. But actually, the cost per baby may be more expensive than places like ours, where they pay a little bit more upfront, but they end up with a proportionately higher chance of taking back a baby.
Okay.
That's the cost effectiveness of taking home a baby. I think that is the right way to see what the actual cost of IVF is, not the front cost.
I once heard about the statement that IVF is a number of game. The more you do it, the more you will closer to achieve. Do you agree with this statement?
I don't agree at all. It is only true if everything else is equal. But there are a lot more other factors than just doing the number of cycle. As I alluded in the alluded to in the answer to your earlier question, if a center gives you 60% chance of taking back a baby per cycle, compared to a center that only gives 20% chance of taking back a baby per cycle, then you can go to first center, you straight away get 60% chance. You go to second center, you got to try 3 times before you hit the same rate as the first center. So the actual chances, depending on the center and depending on the individual doctor in that center, I think is very important.
Okay, I'm going to close with one question. Based on your statement just now, so how can you tell the audience how to choose a good IVF center as a POV from the patient, because we cannot see inside the lab, we don't know about anything about technology. How can we choose a good center for ourselves?
There are many factors that one should look at, and I will give you a few pointers. If you just ask for the pregnancy rate of the center, it's very difficult to determine because a lot of centers are not being transparent, and they may quote a pregnancy rate, and they could be very correct in that pregnancy rate. But a pregnancy rate is a function of a numerator versus a denominator. So if the numerator is different, the rate changes. If the denominator is different, the rate changes. On top of that, it depends on whether the center is quoting the pregnancy rate for the month of March, whereas the other 11 months of the year, they keep quiet because these are the bad months. Whereas if you quote, if a center quotes the entire year, then it is more accurate. Then you got to look at the number of cases. Obviously, 3 out of 6 is 50%. 300 out of 600 is also 50%.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you understand that this 50% and that 50% is very different. So the higher the number of cases, the more reliable is the figure. Then you got to look at what is the things like whether they transfer 1 embryo versus they transfer 2 embryos. So the real indicator of how good a center is would be, number 1, the retrieval rate. So if a patient has got 20 eggs, how many eggs can the doctor actually take out? Good doctors can take out 19 or 20 eggs. Doctors not so skillful, out of 20 eggs, maybe they only take out 10 or 12 eggs.
50% from the...
Yes, so you already lost 40-50% even before you start.
Okay.
Then you got to look at the fertilization rate. So fertilization is very important, and different centers, some may get as low as 50-something, 60% pregnancy rates, and there are a few centers in the world that get 80-82% pregnancy rates. So there's a very wide range, meaning that if you have 10 eggs and a center A can give you 8 embryos versus center B can only give you 6 embryos, then it's so different already at that second stage. Then the next thing is the blastulation rate. And this is the gold standard. You can ask a center what is the blastulation rate. If they tell you it's only 30-something, 40-something%, then you know this is the acid test that this center does not have a good laboratory, does not have a good system. Whereas a center is able to tell you 60-something% blastulation rate, then you know this is a ulala, top IVF center.
So
then another very important is the freeze-thaw survival rate. So when your embryos are frozen and then you thaw them, how many percent survive? And a good indication is if a center can give you 99-100%, then it is good. If a center can give you only 90-94%, then that's no good. Okay, so these are the very important questions to ask, not so much the pregnancy rate. Because when these things are right, the pregnancy rate automatically becomes much higher. And one last thing is the implantation rate. And again, very important. If you transfer 2 embryos, of course, the pregnancy rate is higher compared to you transfer 1 embryo. That's if everything else is equal. But the real test is what is the implantation rate. So the gold standard is 30-something% worldwide. And if you can get even 40-something%, you're considered very good. So if a center can get you 60%, which hardly any center worldwide can achieve, then that is really the top 0.1% IVF center worldwide.
Wow, this is so mind-blowing. So next time, instead of asking about pregnancy rate, I will ask, those are the rate that I need to ask of the center. But do you think each center are eligible to give us that so many data that you just mentioned?
Well, if they're not able to give that kind of data, I think that says a lot about the standard of the center.
True,
I'm sorry,
true.
I'm being very blunt.
True. Wow, okay. Egg retrieval rate, and then blastocyst rate, fertilization rate, and blastulation rate, and then implantation rate.
Freeze-thaw survival rate.
Freeze-thaw first, and then implantation rate.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
5 very important key parameters for the center.
Right. Okay. Very last questions. What is your contribution in this IVF in the future?
We will continue to innovate. And in fact, as we speak, our guys already have at least 7 or 8 major R&D projects in hand. Some we are doing it alone, some are in collaboration with other leading IVF centers worldwide. We will continue to train doctors, embryologists, and our support staff to be able to deliver the highest level pregnancy rates, not just in Malaysia, but worldwide. And we believe that as we expand, we will be able to extend this level of efficiency in producing high pregnancy rates to more and more people.
Thank you, Dr. Colin, for your time and for your thoughts and for your energy in this field. Your presence, your work are really valuable, especially for the couple who try to conceive like us. We wish you a good health, long life, so that you can help a lot of people to conceive and to achieve their dream. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All
Thank
right.
you.